hyperspace. Now, why are we doing that? My lecture about the Illuminati and how they can mind control and use manipulations to get people to do certain things. When I worked at the Montauk project, one of my jobs was to go into this hyperspace level of existence to determine what the symbols mean and bring it back for deciphering. The government knew that most of the alien groups they dealt with didn't use language per se. They used this hyperspace language that was a triad. And I call it a triad because it consists of 3 different parts, which are color, tone, and archetype. Now, when I talk about archetype, I'm not talking about the psychological or Jungian version of a mother archetype, father. No, this is actually a geometric shape in color that emanates from the mind pattern and from your DNA. I actually have prepared booklets for all of you so that you have a glossary of terms and other things in here that will come in handy during the next day or two. Now, what does hyperspace mean? That word is becoming more prevalent in the language in the last couple of years. But the first place you ever heard it was back in the mid-1960s on Star Trek, when they go into hyperspace. But that's not really what hyperspace is exactly. And in order to explain what hyperspace is, I use an analogy, because that usually helps you get a concept across and understand it in the mind. If you consider physical reality as if it existed as the yolk of an egg, then the shell of the egg would be the astral planes. The astral planes are the borderline around all physical realities, and there's more than one physical reality. And it kind of keeps it contained into its integrity. Beyond that is hyperspace. Hyperspace is like the glue that holds together all realities, astral and physical. Literally, for lack of a better term, it's a God mind. It's what keeps everything in existence in existence. It's the intelligence behind all of it. And it operates with color, tone, and archetype. So that if you understand the formula in hyperspace language for various parts of existence, you can then change that formula to manifest what you wish to manifest. Now, subconsciously, you're doing that every second of every day, because you're creating your reality constantly. However, if you're not happy with what you're creating, you're the only one that can change it. Because in existence, in God-mind existence, physical reality is almost like an error in thinking. It exists because people don't take, or beings don't take responsibility for their own thought process. And so when that happens, instantly it's projected out so that they can see it externally. And that's why physical reality exists. You can also compare it to water. If these were various stages of water, this would be ice, this would be water, and this would be steam. So this is physical reality is like frozen energy. You can think of it like that. That this would be ice, water, and steam. And you, as a being, exist in all of those layers and all those levels. And you'll notice that in creation, Three is important. There's always three stages of everything. That's why one of the first archetypes that you learn is the triangle, which is what the pyramids are all about. That's the symbolism of them. And that is perfect creation. That's just a symbol of perfect creation. And you'll notice that in many uniforms or symbols throughout corporate world and business world and government, they use a lot of triangle symbolism because they're creating their own perfect world. Okay. Any questions on this so far? Okay. I'm going to go over here and talk about the flow chart of creation. And when I talk about flow chart of creation, I may use terms or words that are just for concept understanding. You feel free to interchange them with whatever words or terms are more comfortable for you. I'm only using based on my own training. For lack of better ability in verbal communication in society, there are certain terms that are just acceptable to everybody, even though they're not exactly that accurate of a description. For example, when you talk about God, what does that mean? Well, you can use all that is, God mind, universal intelligence, whatever is appropriate for you. So please feel free to whatever I write on the board to alter it to suit you. I'm just trying to get the concept across. Okay? And I think I have to stay on the camera till he comes back. Here's the eraser. May I erase this? So I'm going to start. I'll use something maybe a little darker. With God mind. And again, you can call this whatever you like. I'm going to call this whole thing the flow chart of existence. Now, if we accept the concept that God mind is all that is, everything that exists in any reality is simply a manifestation of a super intelligence, then that's really all that there is. That's it. Everything else is a form of that. Theoretically, and in many ancient texts and philosophies, God mind itself, because it's not he or she, it's an it, doesn't even know how it began. It just knows that it is. And it has no ability to even understand if there's anything outside of it. Even if there were, there'd be no way of communicating or connecting with it, because it is self-contained. This is self-contained. So that God mind itself, when it started to think about what it was, became self-aware, it then instantly generated another level of itself. Because once there's self-awareness, there's a concept of I am something, and then it starts to snowball and repeat and repeat. So the very first level of God-mind self-awareness, I call, for lack of a better term, Christ consciousness. Feel free to change it to whatever you like. This is not a person, it's a level of awareness, a level of existence. And then when that itself becomes self-aware, because this creates this, so that this actually has all the attributes of this, they're really one and the same, they're just different levels of the same thing. So therefore, once this becomes self-aware, and then creates this, which is a replica of itself, then this then does the same thing and becomes self-aware of itself. And the next level that it creates, or did create, was the angelic hierarchy. Here again, this is an energetic level. These are not names of people or things. This is just a level of existence. You can call it level 1, 2, and 3 if that makes you happy. Now, theoretically, because 3 is the creation or perfection, that's really all that should exist. That's really all there should be, because then it just starts to get self-aware and it goes into the triangle again. But that's not what happened. At this point, I need to explain to you a difference in terminology. Most of you heard out there that the words alien and extraterrestrial are the same thing. And in some modalities, they just use them interchangeably. However, as a government terminology, they're two different things. And there are glossaries that explain that in your pamphlets. However, an alien being is simply a physical person like you and I who comes from a different planet within the same physical universe. That's what, to the government, an alien being is. An extraterrestrial is a being that may not necessarily be from this reality and can be physical or non-physical at the same time. Kind of like an electron. Can be physical or energy at the same time and can leap in and out of reality at will. That level is called extraterrestrial or ET. And that is a separate level by itself. It's a borderline level between physical reality and non-physical reality. This is the part that, biblically speaking, the Bible refers to the fall from grace. Because this is the part where the self-awareness within this level said, well, maybe I'm more than God. Maybe I don't need God. Maybe God doesn't want me. This negative thinking began at a portion of this level, and immediately this level gets created. It becomes more physical, more dense. Why? Not taking responsibility for thought pattern, therefore immediate externalization. And it then perpetuates itself. And then the next level where you all exist is human. And I'm going to put also alien because I want you to realize this is not the same level. Human, alien, any physical being in the physical universe is at the same level energetically. Now what do you think would be the next level after that? Keeping in mind that like begets like, and that each level creates the level after it. But what do you think is the next level after humanity? And by the way, the perception is that there's less intelligence as you get further down the chart. Yeah. Would be animal as well as insect.
Sense a misnomer because animals aren't as stupid as people tend them to be.
Well, but an animal isn't going to operate a computer or fly an airplane or build technology for the most part.
How do you know?
Well, I'd like to see one do that.
You never know.
You never know is right.
Dogs do have vocal cords capable of speech.
Well, as a matter of fact,
And I knew a dog that could talk.
as a matter of fact, there are alien and ET groups that go into this level and raise it up to this level. And they look like animal beings, which I can talk about actually tomorrow. So, yeah, that's right. But remember, each group, each level, has the attributes of the others because they're mirroring it. And here's another thing. Each level sustains the one that created it. I'll get to that in a bit. What's underneath here? Plant. Then what do you think is after that? Well, close. Another word, that mineral. And then what? It's going to get a little dicey over here. Subatomic particles. And now what happens? This gets where it gets interesting. So where does it really go? Yes, very smart. Goes right back. Why? Pure energy. Pure energy. So really, even though I'm drawing this here in a straight line to give you the concept, in reality, it's a circle. And in archetype language, which you're going to learn today, the circle represents space or environment or existence. That's why. And does it matter? Does it matter where you are in the circle? No. It doesn't matter where you are in the circle, because it's all part of the same existence.
It's also a life cycle, too. It's straight, yeah.
Exactly correct. But now I'm going to show you something else. I'm going to draw dotted lines. Because those are the borderline areas. And when I say borderline areas, that's because this little section here encompasses physical reality. Or realities, plural, and I'll tell you why in a moment. And the rest is non-physical. Now, how does this part, this physical reality part, compare to the non-physical part? Well, if you were to take a little molecule of one little fiber of that carpet on the floor, that would be the totality in God mind of all physical realities that exist, and all the rest of the room would be non-physical realities, comparatively. So, in effect, within God mind, this is quite a minor situation. And in the complexities and expanse of God mind, it's already been resolved. It's just that the people within it haven't gotten that far yet. Now, we know that each one of these levels becomes a support structure or sustenance for the level above. Now, so what happens at our level? How do we sustain or support what is above? They don't eat us physically. We eat all of these. That's how they sustain us.
It's all energy, though.
It's all energy. So how could we energetically support this? What do you do? Some of you every day.
Meditation.
Prayer, mental work, energetic work, that kind of work.
That does increase it, which is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
How that works.
Mm-hmm. And then that keeps this going and flowing, so that in effect, it's kind of like a gigantic energetic breath, in and out, in and out, in and out, through physical reality and out. It's breathing. It's existence breathing. That's why you breathe. As above, so below. Your bodies are microcosms of totality. And here's something that's even more interesting. I mentioned to you that each one of you exists in every one of these levels simultaneously. Where? If you are at this level now, how do you exist at all of these levels? There is something called the Oversoul, or Master Intelligence, that feeds back into the God mind, of which you are a part. And your Oversoul is connected at that level. Here's the triangle again. So right here is the Oversoul description. Right now, as a human being, your awareness level is at this point. But you have the capacity to be aware at all of these points. Because within your Oversoul exists every part of creation that is imaginable. So that you can tap into that using language of hyperspace techniques and see every part of yourself as it exists in all of these levels. That's how magnificent existence is. And here's another thing. What's the difference between reality and actuality? What's the difference? We're in this room now. I might think it's warm, you might think it's cool, I might think it's uncomfortable, you might think it's comfortable, I might think I'm far from home, you might think you're close to home. We're all in the same place, but we all have different perceptions of that same place. For each of us, there is a reality to where we are at this moment. But that doesn't change the actuality of where we are. There may be infinite realities to the same location, but only one actuality. Do you understand? It goes filtering through the mind pattern of who is perceiving it. That's your filter. So that really, how does one reality exist with 6 billion people on the same planet? How do we maintain that, this is a wall and this is a lamp, and all agree to that? Is that an agreement amongst the people that live in that reality? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Why? Because there are foundational mind patterns to all of those beings that is common. It's the species oversoul, or mind pattern, with a common base that we all accept as rules and regulations.
We have to survive.
Exactly. Exactly. Otherwise there would be chaos. That's another point I want to make. That's what I want to tell you about. There really is no chaos. There's now books on chaos theory, blah, blah, blah. Why? Because they don't understand reality or existence, so what I don't understand I will call chaos. Big lump, no problem. What is chaos? It is a pattern that is not understood. That's what chaos is. There really is no chaos. So I'll use the carpet as an example again. If you were an ant crawling on this carpet, you would say, what's going on here? It goes from red to blue to white to navy blue. There's no pattern here. I'm very confused. But you, as a person looking down, you can see there's this pattern here. And you know what goes where and why. That's the difference. It's perspective. If you stand far enough back and away, symbolically speaking, from chaos, you see the order to it. Because it really is just a larger pattern that's not understood. Okay? That's what that's about. Now, may I erase this? Because I want to give you another analogy of the universe.
I once had a bumper sticker that said reality was for people who lack imagination.
That's exactly correct. If we understand that 3 is very important to existence, That would imply also to our awareness levels. That would imply then that 3 pertains, since there's God mind that makes all creation, that the same rules and regulations apply no matter where you are. So 3 then becomes important to awareness levels. And the 3 awareness levels that we'll deal with in this class are consciousness, subconsciousness, and superconsciousness. And again, you exist in all those 3 levels simultaneously. And each one of these levels has a part of your brain that it uses. What do you think the conscious level is? But that pertains to left brain. Left brain is the logistical mind. All of your thoughts about physical reality emanate from your left brain, and who you think you are, your ego or personality, is centered in your left brain.
So then the subconsciousness would be the right side of your brain.
Ah, close but no cigar. Subconscious, well, I'll get to that last. Superconsciousness is right brain. Because your right brain is the part of the brain that deals with non-physical realities. It deals with esoteric concepts, God mind and spirituality, creativity, intuitiveness, even emotions, all in the right brain. Then, in between, the balancing one is the pineal gland. The very misunderstood organ in the body, or in the head. And by the way, I know many of you have heard it referred to as the third eye, and they always say it's over here. That's not exactly correct. The pineal gland is really located in the very center of your skull. Like if you were to draw a line between these 2 points in your head, that's really where it is. However, there are nerve-ending connections to the forehead, which is why it had been referred to as this being a location. But that's not really where it is. And today and tomorrow when we do our work, and I say center at the pineal gland, really should be in the center of your head. Okay? Now, I wanted to show you something else about this. An analogy of these things. Who knows what a hologram is, or a holographic image, or what the technology is about? I've heard that term so many times.
I've watched Star Trek too many times to see holograms.
Uh-huh.
Isn't it more like, it's like a transportation of a picture?
Well, it's the creation of a reality, or like a virtual reality around your space that's so real that it feels like it's real.
But yet it's not there
But yet it's not there at all. And that's what our universe is like. The universe and your own bodies are like a hologram. If you know how technology of hologram is created, it uses 3 cameras with the same image focusing on one location in space. And when those 3 images converge from the 3 different cameras, a multi-dimensional form appears that looks like it's moving. You ever watch Star Wars and they had the Princess Leia message and she just appears and she's moving and she's like a little thing there, and that's a holographic image. By the way, that's going to be available to you in a couple of years on your computer. When, you know those video games they have now? Well, now you're going to be able to put in a holographic disc, and little images are going to appear at some little location in front of your computer, and be little images walking around. Yeah. So, well, here we go. conscious, subconscious, superconscious, like 3 cameras. Here are the 3 cameras focusing on one spot. In reality, an image appears. That's why cloning can be done from one cell of your body. Every cell of your body contains the image of the whole. Every little, what they call little pixel of a hologram, contains the image of the whole thing. So that if any part of the hologram is disturbed or broken, it can be replicated with any of the other pieces. That's why they only need one little piece of your DNA to create a whole new you. That's because you're a hologram. Physical reality is about holographic imagery. And that's what this is. That's why we exist the way we do. This is all an illusion. Everything here is an illusion and is really symbolic of the mind pattern behind it. And I'll show you how. If we accept that everything is mind or mind pattern, that there's really nothing else, we can say that is analogous to film. And you watch a movie. And what device runs or uses the mind pattern? The brain. It's really a device. So the brain is like the projector. And then, what do we have? What's the screen? Well, screen is really physical reality. So, what we have here, and here's the movie is running, and this one, it's your life. So really, what you're seeing all around you at any moment is a projection of your mind pattern. So if you don't like the movie or the film the screen that's running, the movie, what do you have to change? This. The film. This is the only thing that will change this. And who's the only one that can do that? You. What happens then if you allow someone to put another film in your projector? Still your projector. Someone change the film. That's mind control. And I wasn't able to show you last night because I didn't have a board about how that really works. And your brain wave is like a sine wave that comes out from your brain and goes like this, can be measured by an electroencephalogram. Thoughts are things, and they can be measured. And so what does mind control waves do? It matches the pattern so that the person whose brain is thinking this doesn't realize that there's something else that doesn't come from him or her, because it's matching the pattern.
You do that without you even suspecting?
You don't. Most people out there don't suspect. Every second of every day, every single person out there has this carrier wave attached to them. How?
Now you're scaring me.
From, you should have been here last night. How? From satellites, television transmission, microwave tower transmission, comes through the electrical supply system. It's just everywhere. That's just the way it is. And they use a lot of Nikola Tesla's ideas. And if you ever study his work, you'll know that he actually wanted to use the Earth as a step-up transformer or even a generator, so that you could go outside at anywhere on the Earth and stick a spike in the ground and connect to electrical supply. He was just going to charge the Earth so it would be an electrical generator. You'd never need utilities or anything because the Earth would be it. Yeah, but it didn't stop his work.
Is it still going on?
Oh yeah, most, if not all, of this technology is based on his work. Also based on his alien technology as well. There was a lot of alien technology as well. But in 1899, 102 years ago, 1899, Nikola Tesla invented a device that literally could pick up thunderstorms or electrical activity miles and miles away, kind of like a weather predictor device. Forerunner to the Doppler radar, if you want to think of it like that, 102 years ago. But something else happened with that device. While he turned it on and listened and watched, he was receiving transmissions, some of them voice transmissions, some of them language of hyperspace transmissions. And he found out that they were the transmissions of an alien civilization that was trying to control and dominate this planet. And he went public with it in the newspapers, and he was ridiculed. And that's when he started to keep his mouth shut about things. And that's when the government started to take his information. But he said that 102 years ago, which in the scheme of things was pretty recent, since all this has been going on since day zero. So we have to understand, and the analogy, that the only way to change the movie of your life is by changing the film, which is the mind pattern. And in order to do that, you need to know what it is in the first place. May I erase this? Oh, I'm going to leave that part up. Now, we had left brain and right brain. And we said that the left brain was the logistical mind, and it was the center of your ego or personality. And we also said it was all of the physical reality thoughts were based in the left brain. And the right brain, we said, was creative, intuitive, emotional, and even spiritual. And all of your thoughts related to non-physical reality emanated from the right brain. Now, what do you call a person who has no balance or connection between the left and the right brain? I know you have them in Chicago. They're called bipolar. That they switch back and forth with no balance between the left and right brain. Bipolar. And what happens when they get stuck in just one, and they can't go out of that one side? That's schizophrenia. I mean, they're only stuck in one side. You could be stuck in the left brain, or you could be stuck in the right brain. Yeah, exactly. They are politicians. But the balancing factor is the pineal gland. It acts as a liaison or balance between the left and right brain so that your thinking doesn't go to one extreme or another. It also controls a lot of the other endocrine or glands in the body that produce hormones and other secretions. It's very probably the most powerful organ in the body because it is a liaison between the left brain and the right brain. It controls fluids in the body. And it is the intermediary between the physical and non-physical existences. It helps you to determine what your existence is. And then again, I have to give you another example here. What is the difference between those three, and what parts of the brain are they associated with? Which one?
Well, no, the prayer would have to be left side.
Well, you're correct, but let's first define what is prayer? Why is it left side?
Because you're thinking.
Uh-huh.
You're using your left brain to ask for or pray for something.
And so when you do that, what does that imply when you're asking for something? It implies that you don't have it. It implies lack. And the side of your brain that would see lack would be the logistical, physical side, because it's, I don't have this. It doesn't have any concept outside of the physical. So you're correct. Prayer would be associated with the left brain, right there. What is meditation? What do you do when you meditate? Well, you're listening.
Yeah.
You're trying to have no active thoughts, but you're just listening to what's going on in the universe. Yeah, because you're receiving. You're in a receiving mode. This is a transmission mode, and this is a receiving mode. So what part of the brain would do meditation?
Right.
The right side. Because it's involved in the non-physical, emotional, intuitive side. And that leaves...
So you're going to say that visualization is the subconscious?
Yes, ma'am. Because, what does it do? Visualization pulls in from the left and right side.
You visualize and you do use logic to kind of still ask or say that this is what is going to happen, this is what I'm going to do. Okay.
Because what you're doing is you're saying, I know what I want from physical reality, and I'm going to create it. It's pulling both sides of the brain together to create something of your choice. That's why the pineal gland is so important, because it's pulling in both hemispheres at the same time. Normally, you're only using one hemisphere at a time. Either you're dealing with logic or non-physical. Very rarely do you pull both in and have both active sides at the same time. They have found, and you've read this in the newspaper recently, that female women use both sides more actively than men do. Men just do one side at a time. Men are bipolar. Okay? And of course, the scientist who released this information was a man, and he said, well, that really what's going on is that it takes women twice as much brain power to do the same thing that a man does. That was his explanation. That didn't come from me. That's the explanation that he said, because they proved that women listen with both sides of their brain, and then men only listen with one side.
That would make sense, though, because we're the ones taking care of the kids, and you have to be able to do two modes of thinking.
Well, exactly, that's right. And that's why they say women listen to more than one conversation at the same time. And a man will hardly listen to the one that is in front of him. Okay? So that's why this is what's going on. That's why you see more women who are psychics than men, because they're utilizing both hemispheres of the brain simultaneously. That's basically why you see it. That's why women are more interested in this kind of information than men. And actually, that's only true in this country. When I go outside of this country, it's a 50-50 split in the audience, whereas in this country, it's like 70-30.
Yeah, there's a culture, different culture.
Yeah. That's true. That's true, but it's interesting to note that. And that's why, as I mentioned last night, the U.S. is their last target to break down, because these old habits still exist here and they need to beat it out of you, literally. So that's why they're going through all of this scenario that I mentioned. Now, the pineal gland has a symbol or an archetype that it projects out into your energetic web or aura that is a symbol that balances these two hemispheres of the brain. May I erase this so I can show this to you? And this symbol is called a T-bar. How many of you have heard of that before? Yeah, you've heard of it? Okay. Now, based on your genetics, it can look either like a capital T, or it can look like a cross or small t, or it can look like an ankh. And all three are equal in value. There is absolutely no difference in the function or capabilities of either of these symbols. Simply a question of the genetics that you have. And the color code of that part of the brain is royal blue. I'll get to that in a minute. How many of you are able to do visualizations? Okay. I always tell people, if you can daydream, you can do visualization. So right now, it's just going to take us a few seconds. We're going to each see our particular T-bar. So just close your eyes and center your consciousness in royal blue at the pineal gland at the very center of your head. And the first image that you see will be your T-bar. Don't be concerned if you can't see it, but the first image is related to your T-bar. Just take note of it, and then immediately you can open your eyes and become aware of the room again. How many could see it? Did you all see it? No? Okay. How many show more than one? Now I'll tell you, in North America, because of the blending of genetics of races and cultures that exist here, many people are mixed race. And so, depending on what genetics are open at the moment, will be a reflection of which of the T-bars are available to you at your pineal gland. Very often a person will report to me that they see one and suddenly it changes to something else, or they see two at the same time. That's simply because of their genetic mixture. As certain genetics start to close up and others start to open up, different T-bars then manifest based on those genetics. The capacity and function is the same. Eventually, one will become more predominant than the other, and you'll just have the one again.
I have a dumb question.
There are no dumb questions.
Could it pertain to past lives also?
I don't look at things like that. Okay. For me, there is no past, present, and future.
Well,
it's all simultaneous.
Now, yeah.
It's that circle, it's not a line. So, is it a simultaneous existence? No. I'll tell you why. Because it's a function of the genetics in the body you're using.
Oh, really?
This is a function of the genetics of the body you're using.
And why am I drawn to the ankh?
The ankh is for people who have the genetics of Celtic people, Eastern Mediterranean Middle East, like Israel, Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, and Eastern or East Coast American Indians. Those are the people that have the ankh.
But I have none of that in my genetics.
You know Celtic or East?
No, I'm German, French, and Austrian.
French is Celtic.
Is it? it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And some of the Germanic races or tribes actually originated in the Middle East. Mm-hmm. That's why you have the Danube River in Germany, because that's a tribe of Dan, of the ancient tribes, the tribes that disappeared. Remember that story? That's where they went, in Europe. So yeah, you probably do have that in your genetics. Okay. Now, if for some reason you cannot see your T-bar, don't be concerned. Instead, you can use a royal blue circle with a royal blue dot in the middle of it. Now, what do you do with all this stuff? Every morning before you get out of bed, and every evening before you go to sleep, look at your pineal gland and see your T-bar. And look at how it exists. You might see the crossbar tilted or twisted in some way. However you perceive it, mentally straighten it out so it's completely perpendicular. All the lines are perpendicular. Balancing the arms of your T-bar is identical to centering the dot at the circle. So if you can't see this for whatever reason, you can create the royal blue circle and dot at the pineal gland, and centering this dot is the same as balancing the arms. You can, when you create this, use it in royal blue. Here's the difference. These may appear in different colors depending on how you're thinking and feeling. When you create this, though, you create this in royal blue because that's the energetic color of the pineal area. And the circle with the dot is a HyperSpace symbol for the organ of the pineal gland itself. So this pertains to the actual organ. This pertains to the mind pattern flowing through that organ. Balancing will still balance. What it does is not only regulate the thought process between the left and right hemispheres so that you don't go to any extremes, but it also connects to your pituitary gland, hypothalamus, thyroid, and thymus glands to regulate all of the chemical and hormonal flows of your body. So even though it's a relatively simple exercise to do, it has a profound effect on the mind and the body.
Yeah, I often see the one in the middle.
This one.
Yeah, up my leg or even as I'm going to sleep. So that's why I was looking for a blue. Just now.
It could appear. This should always be in blue when you.
Yeah, but I don't see the other.
Okay. Your genetics, the people who have this genetics are generally those from Eastern Europe, Mediterranean area, and Asia. That's what this one is. Sometimes you don't even realize your genetics until I see a T-bar and you say, gee, where'd that come from? For example, someone the other day who happened to be from Eastern Europe, so normally the genetics, you would see this T-bar. However, they were seeing this T-bar, which could have an East Asian influence. So she said, I have no Oriental genetics in me. But then they remember, you lived in Eastern Europe, especially Poland. If you know about Genghis Khan and the Mongolian hordes from 1,000 years ago, they went all the way to Eastern Europe. And they interbred with a lot of those people, and a lot of them have Mongolian/Oriental genetics mixed in with them. So yeah, you never realize the implications of who and what you are until you even look at your T-bar. And you realize, wow, my genetics really covered a wide area.
I don't think we ever realized that far back.
People don't, especially in America.
Yeah.
You have blinders on. If it's from outside of that part of the Atlantic, it's no good. Doesn't exist. Okay.
But both my sides actually came from Europe.
Mm-hmm. Most people, Caucasian people in the U.S. did come from elsewhere. Ultimately, there was no natural life here.
Well, my mother's side, I'm the second generation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most people are, especially in northeast Great Lakes area, where there's recent immigration. So, during the day, the two most critical times to do this, balancing or centering, is in the morning before you get out of bed and in the evening before you go to sleep. However, that isn't exclusive. At any time during the day, when you get upset or traumatized and you just feel jittery and out of balance, balance your T-bar or center the dot in the circle and it will center you. And when we do our exercises today and tomorrow, we always begin by balancing the two hemispheres of the brain using this method. So when I say to you, balance your T-bar or center the dot in the circle, I'm referring to this. You're going to see, and you are seeing now, corporate logos changing to archetype symbols, language of hyperspace symbols. Why do you think that would be? No more words, no more pictures, but symbol, hyperspace symbol. Why? Instant understanding of what they're trying to tell you with one symbol and color.
And it's still, still mind control. They're still trying to control your life.
Mm-hmm.
Draw you in.
Yeah, and where are you seeing, what's the most famous store right now for using that?
Target.
Where do they have this in red? And when we find out what the colors mean in a minute, you'll know why they have this in red. And then you'll see what they're trying to tell you with that symbol. May I erase this? Before we go into some real actual work, I need to explain one more thing to you, because it's another very misunderstood, disinformed topic, and that is breathing. Now, there are maybe thousands of modalities out there with different breathing techniques that go back to ancient times and to recent modern times. But it's a very misunderstood topic, and I wanted to explain it to you since some of the preliminaries that we do in our visualizations involve a couple of cleansing breaths or breathing techniques. Understand that the human lungs, and I think I talked about this briefly last night, contain or are allowed to contain only 6.5% carbon dioxide. That's what the alveoli of the lungs or air sacs of the lungs can sustain. Eons of time ago, human lungs were able to hold 20% carbon dioxide. Why do you think? Now that's no longer true, it's no longer valid.
I would have to say that our breathing techniques have changed
Well,
considerably.
why? Why? What would make them change?
Stress would have a lot to
One,
do with it.
and environment. Yeah. What do plants do at night?
They convert the CO2.
They actually emit CO2 at night. They emit oxygen in the day and carbon dioxide at night. So, if you were a civilization, didn't have air conditioning, slept basically in the open, where there were lots of plants that emitted carbon dioxide, you would then be able, or should be able, in order to live on that planet, hold more carbon dioxide in your lungs so you don't die at night. See? So that's why eons of time ago, human lungs were able to sustain up to 20% carbon dioxide levels in the air sacs of the lungs. No more. As the plant life diminished and the carbon dioxide production at night diminished, there was less capability of the lungs to hold carbon dioxide, so that in today's modern time, only 6.5% carbon dioxide can be sustained by the lungs. What does this imply as far as some of the deep breathing techniques that you've learned out there all of these years? What is that actually doing when you breathe deeply for a sustained period of time? What are you ingesting into your lungs when you breathe? Oxygen. You're breathing in oxygen. But if you disturb through intensive deep breathing the 6.5% carbon dioxide mix in the lungs, what will the air sacs do? Let's say this drops to 5% then. You're breathing in so deeply for so long, you've over-oxygenated, and now you have an incorrect mixture in your natural lung environment. What will your lungs do? What will the air sacs do? They're genetically designed to freeze up. Say, okay, you're not breathing anymore. Stop. You'll suffocate, literally, from breathing too much. That's what asthmatic attacks are about. And that is also why people have trouble breathing in those modalities of constant deep breathing. And I want you to think about something. When you see these yogis who are in very deep trance and very deep meditative state, how are they breathing? Hardly at all, very shallow breathing. So therefore, that tells you shallow breathing is more benevolent to the body. People who breathe in a shallow basis, for the most part, live longer. And that's a new one for you, probably. Exactly. They're trying to weaken you, because if you can't breathe right, you're not going to pick up a gun or a knife and defend yourself if you're very weak, if you have the wrong mixture of carbon dioxide and oxygen. Believe me, they have covered every base that they can think of. They've been around for thousands of years. They have thought of everything. And so yes, they're trying to disturb the mixture in your lungs so that you don't feel right. You feel weak all the time. There's groups out there now called breatharians. Have you heard of that? No? It's very popular, especially in the far west and in the south. And these people believe that they can simply live on breathing. They no longer have to eat or sleep or anything else. They just survive on breath. Now, one of these people came to a seminar I did in Florida. It was close to 100 degrees, and this person sat there with a snorkel jacket up and a hood over his head, shivering, because he didn't eat. He just breathed. And he was killing himself, and his body was shutting down. Human beings are not designed to be breatharians. That would be at the ET level, perhaps, or beyond. But human bodies, at this point in time, should not be breatharians. That's why you have a digestive system. Everything in your body is for a reason. It's not there for show. And so, yes, you need to ingest food, not just breathe. I didn't need to state that for the video and everybody else. Very important. Now, it's also important, those of you who like houseplants or keeping your windows open or sleeping outdoors, be aware that you may be disturbing this mix, especially those of you who have a lot of plants in your bedroom. At night, it's not a good idea, because those plants are emitting a lot of carbon dioxide, and you're just not going to feel very well when you wake up in the morning. You're going to feel like you've been drugged or knocked on the head, because you have almost no oxygen in there. You're going to have too much of this. I always suggest that people, when they wake up in the morning, do a minute or two tops of slow breathing to get this balance back to normal. And that's all you need. And there's many different kinds of breathing techniques. The one that we use in class mostly is called the cleansing breath. A little different than you may have learned maybe in Lamaze or other modalities. By the way, you must always breathe in through your nostrils and out through your mouth. Why? Why should you not breathe in and out through your mouth or your nose exclusively? What do you have in here? You have nasal and sinus filters that screen a lot of pollutants as you breathe in through your nostrils. And then the air goes into your lungs and is exchanged, and then the toxins are put back into your bloodstream as you breathe out. So what happens then if you breathe out through the same nostrils? Clogging the other side of the filter. Now, this front filter, you can blow your nose out. You can't blow out the inside. Okay? That's when people get sinus infections. That's when people get sick. And they start deteriorating their nasal passages, and eventually they can need surgery, which is very, very dangerous in this area because the membranes between the sinuses and the brain cavity are very, very thin. And I can't tell you how many times surgeons have perforated that and killed patients. Only they don't tell them that's what they died from. So when we breathe, always in through the nostrils, out through the mouth. By the way, the studies have shown that people who breathe exclusively through the mouth happen to have a lower intelligence than nose breathers because they're ingesting the contaminants directly, and it affects the brain's capacity to operate. So if you can, try to remember in through the nostrils, out through the mouth, always as a breath technique. And the cleansing breath I like to talk about is breathing in slowly through the nostrils while simultaneously visualizing a clear energy entering through the crown chakra, flushing through the body, picking up contaminants and toxins, and then slowly blowing out through the mouth and actually visualizing those flecks of toxins and contaminants exiting the body. And you do this until the energy that exits the body is as clear as the energy that entered the body. It's a flush, is what you're doing. Now, some people might see the clear energy exit after a few breaths, and some might take hours, depending on how contaminated you are. But it's not only clearing toxins, it's clearing negativity of energy from your thought patterns and your emotions as well. So when we do some exercises and visualizations today, we will actually be doing a couple of cleansing breaths before each one so we can expel the toxins. We'll do 3 or 4 in the beginning of the first exercise and subsequently just 1 or 2 because we're just maintaining. And you'll also see that after you eat food or do any kind of activity, there's more toxins in the body, so you'd need a few more cleansing breaths to clear that out. That's one method of breathing. Another method that I always like to share with people so that they can get through their day. Very often you're driving home or you're doing a task and you just feel so tired you don't know if you're going to be able to get to your destination or finish your task. So what can you do to energize yourself enough to get to where you're going and finish what you're doing? If you take the first 3 fingers of your right hand and you put them together so there's this little triangle formed in the middle, and then you place this at the very back of the neck where the indentation is, and you hold it there as you slowly inhale through the nostril and slowly exhale through the mouth. Do this 3 times. In through the nostril, out through the mouth, and again in through the nostrils, and out through the mouth. This will give you enough energy boost. It shoots electrical energy from these 3 fingertips into the spinal column where the brain is located, so that it energizes and makes you awake and also stimulates your spinal column so you feel you can move a little better. And it's excellent to do while you're driving because you can keep one hand on the steering wheel and just do this, and then you'll be awake to get home to where you're going. Now, that's really only half a circuit. If you're at work and you really feel tired and you want to energize, you can do the same thing with the 3 fingers of your right hand behind your neck where the indentation is, and you hold it there as you slowly inhale through the nostril and slowly exhale through the mouth. Do this 3 times. In through the nostril, out through the mouth, and again in through the nostrils, and out through the mouth. This will give you enough energy boost. It shoots electrical energy from these 3 fingertips into the spinal column where the brain is located, so that it energizes and makes you awake and also stimulates your spinal column so you feel you can move a little better. And it's excellent to do while you're driving, because you can keep one hand on the steering wheel and just do this, and then you'll be awake to get home to where you're going. Now, that's really only half a circuit. If you're at work and you really feel tired and you want to energize, you can do the same thing with the 3 fingers of your right hand behind your neck, but then take the 3 fingers of your left hand, again, same little triangle you're going to form, and you're going to put it right here at your solar plexus. And you're going to do those 3 breaths again. Only when you do it this way, you're creating a loop. Kind of looks like an infinity symbol. You're completing the circuit, and that gives you a more gigantic burst of energy. I don't advise you do that one when you're driving, because you need to hold on to the steering wheel, although I have seen people around here not doing that. That's for a quick burst of energy. Another one is kind of a prana yoga or yogic technique of breathing, and this is a very powerful energizer you might want to do in the morning, is you stand with your feet about 12 inches apart, hands are flat at your side, and what you're going to do is slowly inhale, and as you inhale, you're raising your hands palm up towards your head, but you're not going to allow the palms to meet. They're going to just stop right above your head, space apart. Then you turn the palms outward, and as you exhale, you start slowly putting your arms down. And you can repeat this a number of times. Generally, it can be 10 to 20 times if you need to, but anytime you get close to the 5, 6, 7 mark, you're going to really boost your energy. Don't do it quickly. You're not flapping your arms like a bird. It's very slow rising up over your head. Hands are turned out, and then a very slow descension of the hands. Palms never touch together and never touch your body. And your feet are apart like this. Another very good yogic breathing exercise, which is really fabulous, is, and this may be difficult to do, so I'll just show it to you, is to actually, on your knees, you're going to be sitting on your knees with your heels at the butt, and you're going to, as best you can, try to grab your elbows behind your back, and then from this position on your knees, you're going to start to inhale to a count of 7 as you move your head forward towards your knees for a count of 7. Then you're going to hold your breath for a count of 7, and then slowly rise up, exhaling to a count of 7, and then without any breath at all, you're going to stay breathless for a count of 7. Then you repeat the exercise. That's one cycle. So it's 7 down, hold 7, 7 out, hold 7. That's one cycle. Do that 7 times. You'll be levitating towards the ceiling. You'll probably be drenched in sweat at the end of it. That's how powerful and energizing it is, like jogging 10 miles. That's how powerful it is. And don't be concerned if you can't reach your elbows. Go as close as you possibly can. And I'm going to give you a final type of technique of breathing, and that is actually using just one nostril over the other. Whether you realize it or not, you're really only breathing out of one nostril at a time. So if you become aware of which nostril are you breathing through, you'll know which side of your brain is active. If I'm breathing through my left nostril, which side of my brain is active? Right, because there's a crossover in the center where the left side controls the right side controls the left side of the body. So you can stimulate the side of the brain that you want activated by simply closing off the opposite side and breathing through that. So if I want my right brain, let's say I'm a writer, and I really need to stimulate my right brain to write a story, and I'm just blocked. What am I going to do? I want this side of my brain to be open. I'm going to block what? The left. No. No. Because my right side is controlling this side. So I'm going to block the right nostril, breathe in through the left, so it stimulates my right brain. Crossover. Remember? Crossover. What does that crossover represent? Really. Why does that happen? Remembering the rule, as above, so below. So if opposite sides of my brain are controlling opposite sides of my body, what does that tell us about existence? Physical reality then is what of non-physical? Opposite, it's a mirror image. So everything in physical reality is a mirror of the non-physical mind pattern. And the brain connection to the body is evidence of that. Okay? Did you ever hear of reverse speech technology? Where there are now tape recorders that are able to record your speech as you're speaking and then play it back to you in reverse. And what do they hear when they play it back in reverse? Something like that. That's part of the technology. That's what they were playing with. What they're actually, if you tape recorded me or yourself or anybody and then played it back reverse, you would hear other words being spoken. What does that represent? My physical speech is just a mirror of my non-physical concepts and ideas. They have done reverse technology speaking with the president and other political figures, and what he says in the reverse speech is sometimes very different than what his physical speech is saying. So that's why we can close off one side of the nostril and get the other side going, because physical reality is mirroring. Okay? Does everybody need a break? Okay, you want like a 10-15 minute break? Okay, because you've been so nice, I'll give you a break. But we'll keep it to 10-15 minutes. They just need a break. Okay? Okay, sorry about that. Next, spinning wheel, and that was in Sanskrit language and even ancient Egyptian language. Is there a physical or biological basis for this concept? Exactly. And what the chakra system is, or what the chakras really are nerve ganglions or bundles of nerves that come together at certain parts of the body, and where they meet, they produce an electromagnetic field that has a particular color associated with them. And that energetic field then energizes and supports the various organs associated with that section of the body. That's what the biological basis of the chakra system is. And here again, based on some of that information I had given you last night on the Illuminati, there's a lot of disinformation about the chakra system and the colors. So a lot of what I might tell you in this next section may not agree with what you've learned over the past some odd years that you've been studying this. So ask questions about it and see what you think. Now you'll notice hanging up here, I have what I call chakra socks or chakra tubes, which are made out of silk from Thailand. Now, I purposely made them this way or had them made this way so that they are hollow in the middle and they can be stuffed so that they can create a tube or a cylinder. For the few years that I've been teaching this, people have asked for visual aid about the chakra system, and so I finally had these made in Bangkok. Now, actually the woman who made them was Madame Betty, who was Princess Diana's dressmaker. And she had the shop in Bangkok, and she went through and picked all the Thai silk that could match as perfectly as possible the colors that I talk about in the chakra system. Now, many of you, over the years, and I'm just going to show you this because it's so common, and I'm going to draw a diagram of a person. I'm not an artist, so bear with me, okay? Many of you over the years have learned about chakra spinning. How many of you heard of chakra spinning? But you've all maybe heard about it in a vortex manner. For example, you may have learned that it spins like a vortex into the chakra and then comes out the other side. How many of you have learned it that way? Yeah? Do you ever use that? No? I want you to think about something logically now. If you take a glass of water and you put your finger in it and you start going like this, like a vortex, what happens to the water in the container? What happens to it? But what's formed? Like a hole, or a like you call a tornado vortex, a hole is formed in the water. So what happens on your body if you spin this way, your energy field, what's being created in you? A hole. Does that sound right to you? But does that sound like something you want to create in yourself, whole, in all areas of your body? What can happen if there's this tube going through you like this? Accessed. That's why it's taught like that. This is not a new concept. This goes back thousands of years. The way I show you to learn it, if this is a person, it is as if you were in a tube layered in colors. That's what these tubes and socks are about. And the spinning or the movement of the energy is around you in this cylinder like discs. It moves horizontally. Colored discs moving horizontally. In this way, your energetic integrity is maintained. There are no openings possible, and all your energy is then enhanced within the container. We'll try it together in a few moments, and you'll see the difference of how you feel. But I want you to learn something else here. You will see on my chakra tubes how many colors are on there. Now, there are 7 main chakra centers in the body, but I have 8 colors there. I'm using a non-chakra color on the tube. Why? Grounding and balancing. If you could see energy through an electrospectrograph, you would see that gravity has a brown color to it. And your body, from the bottom of your feet to the top of your thighs, resonates in a brown color. This is what grounds you and holds you to the earth. That's why soil and tree bark and small animals and sand has a brown resonance to it, because they're picking up the energy of that field. And your body, too, picks up that brown energy. It's not a chakra color, but it's the color of the earth's grounding to your body. It's like being plugged into the outlet. The earth being the outlet and you being the plug. That's why you separate like this, too. Okay? But I'm going to talk more about that in a minute, because a lot of bad information out there about the grounding techniques. When we work with the chakra spinning, we always start from the bottom up, from the brown up. Why? What does brown do? You said grounding, balances, and also is a safety net. You will see that when we do our visualizations, we end always in brown because it's a safety net that pulls us back to the present moment. What will happen if you start spinning your chakras, let's say from the root, which is where you all learned, up, from the red up and ignore the brown? What could possibly happen to you? You might,
in your body, I don't think you would come back. It's the same.
you might experience a Kundalini activation. Now, there are about 10,000 books out there and modalities that say Kundalini yoga, Kundalini exercise, da-da-da-da-da. Everyone do Kundalini. The Kundalini dance. What will happen if you activate Kundalini energy unprepared prematurely? You can go insane, you can get sick, you can die. Those books are, that's exactly right. Kundalini activate. What is Kundalini? What does it mean? It means snake. And what is it based on? Your spinal column that's kind of snake-shaped. And the premise behind it is that you start at the base or root chakra and you push that energy all the way up your spinal column to the pineal and crown area, and then it explodes open. Only thing is, when that explodes open, it's a one-time deal. You don't go back. You're opened. And if you're unprepared and it's premature for you, you're in big trouble. A lot of people in mental institutions and criminal institutions have premature Kundalini activation. That's why they're in institutions. What happens is you start becoming aware of many realities all at once, and you cannot focus in any of them.
Almost like being autistic.
Well, part of the time, medical science or psychological science calls it multiple personality disorder. That's a form of it. It's really Kundalini activation, but they don't accept that. Don't do it. Your genetics are pre-programmed to activate Kundalini in stages and in sequence, so that by the time you're 60, you may be programmed to be up to this level now. Okay? You may not be scheduled to open up all the way. We have to change. That prematurely become aware of too many experiences and realities at once. Now, you may have you all have pre-programmed openings at various stages of your life that will open the Kundalini to a certain level. It may not necessarily be that in this lifetime you'll be fully activated. Maybe your grandchildren or your great-grandchildren will have that activation, or maybe it's not even in your genetics to do that. Some people are born fully opened. It depends on the mind pattern animating that body. Never, never should it be forced to open, because that's extremely dangerous. So when we do our chakra work, we always start with the brown, because the brown, being grounding and balancing, automatically precludes any activation from occurring that is not premature or inactive. Now, many of you have seen this symbol. It's called a lightning bolt. Sometimes you see it on a product. You see it on television a lot. A lot of cartoon characters have it. This lightning bolt symbol is a HyperSpace archetype, which means artificial activation, especially for Kundalini. So when you see this, what did the Nazis used to have on the Gestapo insignia? Double lightning bolt. Artificial activation. Very powerful. Double intensity. That's what you're seeing on a lot of products that are being sold these days. Now, there are two types of energies that enter the body as far as your chakra system is concerned. physical energy and non-physical energies. What could be an example of a physical energy that would enter the body? It's a natural energy that emanates from physical reality naturally, like gamma radiation, ultraviolet, gravity, solar energy. All of these things that are natural to the environment radiate into your body and enter it through the root chakra, where it then goes up the spinal column to the pineal gland and is redistributed where necessary. Non-physical energies from the astral levels and hyperspace levels enter the body through the crown chakra and enter then to the pineal gland, where they are then distributed where needed. So what's the pivotal point of these energies in the body? Pineal gland, which is why we keep it balanced, so that it's distributed evenly. Very important. So constantly you're getting this flow through the body from physical and non-physical sources, swirling through your body and being balanced by the pineal. That's really what is called the sympathetic nervous system. Have you heard of sympathetic nervous system? Now, what happens if you have a block at some part of your spinal column? Energy can't flow properly. And that would cause a subluxation to occur that then would need to be readjusted. That's what that's all about in your spinal column. Spinal column is, for all intents and purposes, a conduit of electrical wires. That's really what it is. That goes from the generator to the outlets. That's basically what your body's about. You're an electrical system. Now, we're going to get into the spinning part. Now, when we spin horizontally, not as a vortex, but horizontally, we're going to go either clockwise, which is left to right, or counterclockwise, which is right to left. How will we know which way we need to go in the morning? Chakra spinning should be done in the morning before you even get out of bed. How do you know which way to go? Well, mentally ask yourself. Wake up, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to balance my T-bar, and then I'm going to say, okay, which way am I going? I personally always like to go counterclockwise, from right to left. What does that mean when you go counterclockwise? You're spinning from right to the left. The meaning is, why your body needs to do it that way is you have an overabundance of non-physical energies that need to be redistributed to the physical body. Counterclockwise is overabundance of non-physical energy that needs to be redistributed to the physical side. Overnight, the kind of energies that you're naturally pulling in. Contrarily, if you feel the need to go clockwise, from left to right, that means that you have too much physical energy that needs to be redistributed to the non-physical side. Now, every morning when you wake up, you're going to ask yourself which way I need to go. Whichever way you start, that's the direction you keep all the way up. Do not ever change direction in midstream. You stay in the same direction from bottom up. If you need to go clockwise, then it's clockwise all the way up. And it's always bottom up. Now, you may wake up one day and feel you need to spin another way. But for the most part, predominantly, there'll be one direction that suits you the best most of the time. And that's simply because of the way you're built. That's simply because of your particular structure that needs it to be that way for most of the time. There's no way that's any better or worse, it's just how you are. And when we spin, we always again start with the brown. Bottom of the feet to top of thighs, we spin, either clockwise or counterclockwise, in and around the body. It's not just around, it permeates the whole body, as if you are submerged in that color. Then the next color is really the beginning of the chakra system, and that's the pale red from the top of the thighs to the pubic bone. That's pale red. Again, in and around the body. Next is the pale orange from the pubic bone to the navel. Very narrow band of pale orange. Next, from the navel to the sternum is a pale yellow color. That's the solar plexus. From the sternum to the collarbone, the heart chakra, is a medium green color. Medium green, just like you see on the chakra tube there. Here, medium green. And we're going to go over what the colors mean because shading is important. Then from the collarbone to the tip of the nose is the thyroid or throat chakra, and that's ice blue, real icy blue color. That's your communication center. Then, from the tip of your nose to the top of your forehead is a royal blue, like the color of the folders you have. And that is the pineal area. It's also the area where your senses are located or based. And finally, the very top of the head or skull area is the crown, and that's violet. Now be very careful about the differentiation between violet and purple. People get them mixed up all the time. And so in the back of the Healer's Handbook, I have a color chart, and I purposely put violet and purple next to each other so you can see the difference. In a lot of foreign countries, in Europe in particular, they use violet and purple interchangeably because they don't have words for purple. They just call it violet. And so we have to differentiate, call it blue violet or red violet. And that's how they know the difference. Violet has more of a reddish pink to it. Purple has more of a deeper blue to it. So there's a difference. Okay? So what we're going to do right now is we're going to actually together spin our chakra system in this tube form, in this cylindrical form, so that you feel a difference of the energies based on what you have been doing. And then you can see for yourself how the energy is. It doesn't matter if you're seated, standing, laying down, doesn't matter. Remember, hyperspace, there's no direction. It's just energy. So try not to put a human perspective that I need to be straight like a cylinder. It doesn't matter. It could be hanging upside down or whatever you like. But and then after we do that, we'll go through the meanings of the colors of your chakra system and why shading is so important. So are we ready to just quickly do a chakra spin, my version of it, which is your feet flat on the floor, hands at your side or on your lap. Quickly balance your T-bar so the energy is distributed evenly, or if you can't see your T-bar, use the royal blue circle with a dot in the middle at your pineal gland. And then, from the bottom of your feet to the top of your thighs, you will be spinning in brown in and around the body, either clockwise or counterclockwise. So choose right now which direction you feel is appropriate for you. Whichever direction you choose, that's the one you stay with all of the way. So you're spinning right now in brown, bottom of feet to top of thighs, in and around the body. Feel the brown. It's grounding and balancing for you. Now, from the top of your thighs to the pubic bone, you're spinning in and around the body in pale red, same direction as the brown. In and around the body now in pale red, top of thighs to pubic bone. That's your root chakra. From the pubic bone to the navel, you're spinning now in pale orange. In and around the body, same direction. From the navel to the sternum, you're going to spin in pale yellow, in and around the body, same direction. That's your solar plexus. From the sternum to the collarbone, you'll be spinning in medium green, in and around the body, same direction. Now from the collarbone to the tip of the nose, you spin in ice blue, in and around the body, same direction. Use a good ice blue in this area. From the tip of the nose to the top of the forehead is royal blue, in and around the body, same direction. And finally, the very top of the skull, the top of the head area, is violet, in and around the body, same direction. So now you're spinning from the brown up to the violet, from bottom of your feet to top of your head, in and around the body, all in the same direction. And when you've accomplished that, you can just become aware of the room. How did that feel compared to what you do usually? Any difference that you noticed? It keeps your energy intact. Nothing can get in or out. And the energy that's already in you is amplified within the cylinder. So it keeps you strong. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but then what's the other thing? You have empty spots. This keeps you contained, completely colored in, so to speak. Your chakra system is what really buttons your soul personality into your body. It's what keeps you intact. And what Alzheimer's disease is all about is that you're unbuttoned from the top down. so that you lose this, whereas the rest stays intact. People can live for years with Alzheimer's and they're just shells walking around. That's the unnatural way of dying. The real or proper way of unbuttoning from the body is bottom up. This should be the last thing to go. But in society, and because of the way things have become, that's what Alzheimer's is all about. And if you know a patient or person with Alzheimer's, and you now know where the colors are and how to use them, and you help them put those colors back, they can possibly regain use of their mentality. Also, it's very important to remember to keep the same direction all the way up, whatever you chose in the morning, because there are some modalities out there, at least one in particular that I learned about, that's teaching people to reverse the spins. One way clockwise, the other way counterclockwise, all the way up reverse. That's very dangerous. And logically, if you think about it, if you have a wet cloth and you start going like this to the cloth, what happens to the water in there? It's wrung out. So if you do that with your energy system, you're wringing out your energy. You're depleting yourself. Never do that. Always keep same direction all the way, and always bottom up, never top down. What would happen if you spin top down? You're actually turning yourself off. It's unscrewing you instead of putting the light bulb back in, so to speak. So always bottom up, always in the morning. The only time I ever recommend ever going top down is if you've experienced an event that was so traumatic that you would have to be sedated for hours. In that case, instead of taking medication, then I can understand spinning top down to turn yourself off. But hopefully, none of you will ever have that need. I also recommend that you do this in the morning before you get out of bed, because it energizes you and recalibrates your energy system for the rest of the day. If you do it at night, it's going to charge you up and you're going to have difficulty sleeping. So the only time I would recommend doing it in the evening or night is if you know you're going to be up all night or you have some place to go for several hours and you need to be re-energized, then you can do it again maybe in the late afternoon to energize yourself. But other than that, don't. You'll have a hard time sleeping. Now, we're going to talk about the actual meanings of the colors, because that's part of language of hyperspace. That's one of the triad parts, is the color. Now, we always start with a pale red. I understand that for many, many years, those of you who've studied chakra systems and that kind of work, they always tell you to use bright electrical colors in your body. But that's not correct, because that's not what your body's all about. The root chakra is actually a pale red. Actually, I skipped something. We need to talk about brown. I don't have a brown one, so I'll just write in black. And what does brown do? We said it was grounding, balancing. What else? Like a safety net. And as far as time is concerned, time travel or mental time travel, brown represents the present moment. The here and now. That's what brown is about. What about pale red? Very simply, pale red is an energizer. What else? It's also male creativity. And what happens if we use a brighter or darker red? What does that color mean? It represents anger, frustration, pain or hurt. That's why we keep it to the pale red. It's just plain energy, booster, like a booster energy. And in your notes you could put darker red or bright red with anger, frustration, hurt, and even aggressiveness. What is pale orange? Well, we're going to learn today in one of our visuals, actually tomorrow we're going to learn that. Pale orange is the color of absolute truth. It's also the color of female creativity. What else? It can also be used to replace sunlight. What is dark or bright orange? Dark or bright orange represents heavy sexuality.
Red also.
For males. Females, it would be bright orange. And you'll notice in many police departments, when they dress the prisoners in their prison garb and they're transporting them, very often they're in the pale orange jumpsuit because they know they'll be more truthful that way. That's why they dress them. It's not an accident. They know about the colors. But darker orange has a lot of also aggressiveness, hostility, heavy sexuality. A lot of rapists, if you look at their energy fields, have a heavy or dark orange and red in it. That's representing their mentality. This is supposed to be pale yellow. There it goes. Can you see that? What does pale yellow represent? Pale yellow represents digestion and absorption. That's why it pertains to the digestive system. Also represents understanding. And also has to do with the nervous system. Now, darker or brighter yellow has to do with ELF, or extra low frequencies, mind control devices, technological devices emit darker or bright yellow colors. Also, people who take medicines or unnatural herbs generate a dark yellow color around their pineal area. It can also be a medicinal effect. That's why if I have a private consultation with someone, and I see darker yellow in this area or someplace else on the body, I'll ask, are you on some type of a medication? Because if they're not, that means they're being bombarded with ELF. So that's very important to know why they would have that. And that's also important to see why the shading is so important to the meaning of the color. It's not generic, because something is yellow, it means X, Y, and Z. It depends on the shade of the color. Mustard yellow represents toxins or fear. So we don't want to ever see a mustard yellow color in a person, because then we would say that person has a toxin in them or they're afraid of something. Generally, you see it in the heart chakra area when there's fear involved. If you see it here, then it generally means there's some kind of toxin in their digestive system. Particularly, I noticed that in people in Florida had a lot of darker or mustardy yellow in their digestive area, and yet they were not on medication. And then I realized that they were drinking their water, which is full of sulfur, and sulfur can also leave a mustard yellow color in the digestive system. Next is medium green. Well, this is the heart chakra area. And medium green has to do with emotions. It's also the color of oxygen. And time-wise, green is related to the past. And can also energetically represent growth. Now, if I have an olive green color, if I'm looking at a person and I see that person has a lot of olive green here, what could that represent? Olive green represents negative emotions or aggressiveness from the past. That means they're bringing up old issues from the past that are disturbing them. When I see lime green, I have to ask a question. Lime green represents jealousy. And so I need to ask, is someone jealous of that person, or is that person jealous of someone else? Here again, I would see it mostly in the heart chakra area. Now these colors that I'm telling you that have a negative connotation to them, these are colors that you may see in a person's energy field, but you must never put them in a person's energy field. We could see them, we need to understand what they mean, but we must never put them in. If we're doing healing work on somebody, never put those colors that I'm giving you, the negative ones, inside an energy field. I'll go over that list with you in a moment. Now the next color is a ice blue. This is so ice blue it doesn't even show. So we're going to have to just improvise. Just put ice blue. This is really not ice blue, but... And ice blue is a communication color. It also is a sign of depression. Especially if we see it in the heart chakra area. If I see ice blue in the thyroid, that's excellent. But if I see it in the heart chakra, that person is depressed. It also stops bleeding. and pain. So that if I have a severe pain in any part of my body, and I immediately put ice blue in that area, pain will stop. And if you have a nosebleed or you get cut, immediately put ice blue mentally in the area, will stop the bleeding. Yeah. And it will also reduce blood pressure, ice blue. So actually it's a nice thing for a person with high blood pressure to put the ice blue here to reduce their blood pressure, but to hold it there too long, they're going to get depressed. So you have to know when to stop. And finally, ice blue represents the very near future. Just like I should go back here and tell you that very pale green or light green is the immediate past. Yeah, I just wrote generally. Yeah. Oh, and you can also use ice blue. If a child or anybody has a fever, you put them in ice blue, will stop, reduce the fever. Now we have royal blue. Very, very important pineal color. All of the senses are located in the royal blue area. It is also a color that represents hyperspace. It's your color code, entry code into hyperspace. Royal blue also can represent the far future. And when you are doing a visualization or you're in hyperspace and you happen to see some object in royal blue can also represent technology. And here's a color code sequence that you may frequently see, because we mentioned that darker or bright yellow is an electromagnetic field. We also know that royal blue can represent technology, so that if I see a ceiling fan or a light or a lamp like this, I may see the object itself in royal blue surrounded by a dark or bright yellow haze. That represents the technology and the energy emanating from it. So be aware when you see that, you're looking at technology and the energy that it's producing. Careful here about navy blue. We never put navy blue in a person's body. Navy blue is the opposite of olive green. It represents negative or hostile emotions or events pertaining to the future. So that if you are looking at a person's energy field and you see a lot of navy blue around the head area, you can be sure that that person is thinking about the future in worried, concerned way. They're very afraid of what might happen in the future, and that's creating navy blue in the head area because their thought patterns are producing that. And then finally, as far as the body's concerned, we have violet. Now, violet is a protection color. We're going to go over protection techniques. It also acts as a filter for energies, or purifier. Violet also has a high spiritual connotation to it. It's a very spiritual color. And can represent interdimensional travel. So that if you see something appear to you in a violet flash or a violet color, and you don't know what it is and it's trying to communicate with you, It is some type of interdimensional entity or being or technology, but something coming through dimensions. And so it appears in a violet color. That's why it's at the top of your head. Remember, violet has to do with entry of non-physical energies from astral hyperexactly. And then it also filters it at the same time as it comes in. That's why if you're working with someone, let's say you're doing spiritual work, and you notice that someone's crown chakra does not have a violet in that area, that's dangerous for that person because they're not filtering the energies and anything can go in there. That's why if you also see that dark yellow on top of a crown area, you can be sure that's not medicinal on the crown. That's an ELF entry. Someone's being controlled or monitored that way. And something very important to understand about all of these energy systems and colors. There's a big difference between the chakra system and the aura. I call it an energetic web, but the common term is an aura. What is the difference between your chakra system and your aura? People think it's the same thing, just like they think ET and aliens is the same thing, and it isn't. There's a difference between your chakra system and your aura. Every healthy, normal human being should have these central core colors in their chakra system in order to be healthy. No matter who or what you are, or what you're thinking, you should have these in your chakra system. That's like the central column of your energy field. Around that is your aura. That changes constantly with how you think and how you feel. That changes the colors around you. So if you're learning how to be a mentalist or psychic and you want to actually learn to see the colors, learn to see past the aura into the chakra system. That will tell you about the person's health. Then this around them will tell you about how they're thinking and feeling. Understand? You could see any colors in the aura, but the chakra system should be that. Think of this like the underwear, and this is the outer clothing. Okay? And you all should wear white underwear, in case you have an accident. No, there are no accidents. Big X through that. No accidents. May I erase this?
Were there any negative blue colors or something like that?
Only thing negative really about ice blue is that if you hold it for too long, it can make you depressed. And also it can make you feel cold. It can make you feel cold and depressed. Very often, if you're able to see colors in a field, you look at a very elderly person, a lonely person, and you see they're kind of icy blue in color because they're lonely and they're depressed and isolated. And so they feel that way. Very often elderly people have an icy blue color around them. One thing I need to tell you about, I know a lot of people come up to me at seminars and lectures and they say, oh, look at my aura picture. I just took this at the booth. I'm going to tell you something. Those things are phony. They're not real aura pictures. Auras don't look like that. And especially when I hear about the descriptions of the colors, oh, this means you're spiritual. They never have a bad description of anybody. They're always wonderful and spiritual. Oh, this red, you're spiritual. Yeah. And you also notice that when you sit down on that chair to get your color taken, they tell you to hold on to those two rods. Anyone ever do that? They make you hold on to these two posts. Those are electrical posts that are sending charges through your body. That's what the camera is photographing. It's photographing the field that's generating around you. That's what it's not your aura, it's an electrical field. And they'll change the colors, the machine, it's a computer, and they'll make this one green, and that one red, and that one blue, and they'll change it so no one has the same picture. It's a scam. The only legitimate aura or energetic pictures that exist are with Kirlian photography. Kirlian photography is not portable. It's a pretty big machine, and it's only for scientific and governmental use. You will never see it at an expo. Just let you know that. You can do it for fun, but it's not really you. Okay? Just want you to know that. I'll tell you what, I can use that board even though it won't be on camera. I wonder if they'll get mad at me for that. I want to give you a list of colors never to put in a person's energy field because it would be damaging to them. And some of it may be interesting to you when you hear about it. So I can't erase this then? Okay. And these are colors that we never place in the body. Now, some of them we already spoke about. We said that we never use dark or bright red, dark or bright orange. What else? We also said no dark or bright yellow, navy blue, and also we're not going to use mustard yellow. We said that was not a good thing to use. Toxins and fear. We also mentioned olive green and lime green. And when I say lime green, that also means yellow green, or whatever other terms you want to use. That yellowish green we don't use. What else did we say? Anything else? Right. Well, purple is okay to put in a field. It means something else, but we'll get to that. We don't ever put in black. Now, that doesn't mean black necessarily is bad or negative. It just means it can be one of a couple of things. So depending on our intent, we have to know what we're doing. Black can mean depth of thinking. If I look at a person and I see some darkness around the head, like black around the head, that doesn't mean they're going to pass away. That means they're very deeply thinking about something. That's what it means. If I see black around the entire body, black can mean a void or emptiness. Very often you see that in cancer patients. It also can mean hiding or something secret. So if you see someone who's totally, the aura is in black, most likely that is a very psychic or able mental person who is hiding their true energy and doesn't want you to see them. That's a very powerful person. And that's what's really meant by a black magician. That doesn't mean they're evil or bad or that they wear black. It really meant that they were hiding their energy field in black so that you couldn't tell what or who they were. That's what a black magician really is. They keep their things hidden. So we don't put that in a person because we don't know what that person's mind pattern is going to do with the black. The black could make them like a void. They could just be like completely blanked out. We also don't put gray. Gray means doubt and confusion. So when we see, for example, when I look at a person and I see gray in this second or root chakra area, that says that person is confused and doubtful about their creativity and their productivity. They're not sure what to do with themselves. Very often if you see someone who's unemployed or they don't have a job and they don't know what to do, there is a lot of gray around them because they're confused and doubtful about themselves. We also don't use hot pink. Hot pink is lust. Now, of course, you might want to put that around you at some time, if you're in a bar or what have you, but we do not put that in somebody's energy field. And if you happen to see that in someone's energy field, you know what they're after. What if you see a person, and then you probably see this in a male figure, a combination of bright red, bright orange, and hot pink in their energy field, what would you do with that person? I would stay away. That person has very hostile, aggressive tendencies, most likely would be a rapist. Yeah, so you stay away. And here's, do I have most of the colors that I said so far? Because the next one's going to surprise you. Okay, I think I can go to the next one now. And I want you to think about this after I explain it to you. We also never put white in a person's energy field. And I'm going to ask you a question. When it's summertime, and you're driving around in the summer, what color car is the best car to be in the heat and sun?
White.
Why?
Reflect.
Reflects away energy.
Black absorbs white. Reflect.
So, if you hold white light around yourself or another person, what's that doing to their chakra system? It's reflecting it away and killing them. This is why, when people have visions of departed relatives or angelic figures, they see them in white. Why? Because they have no living chakra system. That's right. 99% of the time you see those beings in white because they're not alive physically. So you never put white in or around a person's energy field because you'll be reflecting away their natural color.
What about the combination of white and gold?
Doesn't matter. The white will reflect away the gold. Yeah. Make sure you know what you're doing. Now let me give you another thing. White can be used as a temporary flush. For example, let's say you're doing your cleansing breath and you really feel junky today. You really feel like you have a lot of junk in you. You can quickly use a white flush to flush that out and then get rid of the white. And then put the normal colors in there. But never hold that in or around yourself or another person, because that will reflect away all your chakras and you'll be in trouble. Now this is a perfect time to go into protection techniques. How many of you have your own protection techniques that you do? Yeah? Only one of you? How many of you do hands-on healing work? So this is going to be very important for you. And we're going to talk about protection techniques. As you know from what we talked about last night and this morning, that there is a lot of bombardment of electromagnetic waves, mind control stuff, negativity, and all around you all of the time. And especially if you're in large groups of people, or if you work in areas where there's a lot of technology and there's a bombardment of electromagnetic fields on you constantly on your system, you need to protect yourself to keep your energy intact. Especially those of you who do work hands-on with people, where you touch them, you could pick up their contamination, they can pick up yours. So one very, very good protection technique, which is all in violet, remember violet is protection and filtering, is to surround yourself with an egg-shaped energy field. You're inside of it, and it's filled with a violet color. And the shell, or outside of the egg, is a mirror facing away from you. So that if anybody looked at you energetically, they would see a mirror in the shape of an egg. And what does this do? Any energies coming towards you are deflected back to the sender by the mirror. And any energies that happen to penetrate the mirror are filtered by the violet inside and keep you safe. I recommend you do this when you're sitting in front of the computer, when you're working hands-on, when you're in large crowds in a city, When you're in an area filled with technology, you'll know when you need to protect yourself. This is a very important, most common technique. Another simple technique is to put yourself or your loved one in violet hands like this around you as a protection. Even when you're driving your car, you can keep violet hands under the car like this or like this as a protection, like this or like this. Same thing in any vehicle in which you are traveling. Another protection technique, which many of you may have seen, I call it the ring or the halo. And that's what they have them on religious photos or paintings, of a ring or halo over the top of the crown area. But what is it really doing? Coming down from that ring are violet energy rays or threads that act like a curtain of protection around you. Yeah, and it's completely enveloping you. That's why they drew halos over people's heads in religious paintings. You can also add to this either silver or gold overlay to the violet as a protection. For your home, okay, this is your home. Let's say there's a storm coming or some violence is in the atmosphere. You can literally put your home in a dome like this, filled with the violet and mirror on the outside. I would also suggest, because such things are underground as well, that you complete with a circle or a circle, because there's stuff coming up from underneath as well that you don't even realize. The earth, as we'll find out tomorrow, is really hollow. So, very important you cover the top and the bottom, all angles. Now, I need to ask you all a question. How many of you have heard of the Bible Code, the book, the Bible Code, where, by putting the ancient Hebrew language directly into a computer without spaces, the computer showed that coded into the wording were sequences that connected certain letters together and formed multidimensional shapes. Now, when they put all the shapes together and they asked the computer, what is the master shape that is the shape of all shapes and everything comes from it, and would also therefore be the most perfect protection because it would literally be the shape of God mind, the computer came up with a tetrahedron inside an octahedron. It's hard to draw, so bear with me. A tetrahedron is a three-sided pyramid on a flat base. This would be a tetrahedron. Three-sided pyramid on a flat base. Really has four sides, but three are the triangular. An octahedron is really, you know how the pyramids look in Egypt, the four-sided? Well, one on top and one on the bottom. That's an octahedron. And so, octahedron That would be an octahedron. And the whole thing would be in violet. And whatever you're protecting is in the middle there, in the center of the tetrahedron. This works as a super fantastic protection technique. Think of it as the master protection of everything. In fact, the image is so powerful when you create it that it lasts for 3 or 4 days. All these others need to be recreated every so often during the day. This one lasts for 3 to 4 days before it dissipates. You really only need to do twice a week if you were protecting yourself or another person or a thing. When you fly or you're in a vehicle, it's a good idea to keep the vehicle in the very center of the tetrahedron, inside the octahedron, all in violet, all of it in violet. Someone told me that as an extra added dimension or super duper, really overkill, you could put a ring of gold around the whole thing, or gold and silver, like you would at the halo, only be gold and silver around all that. It's really superfluous, but look, it couldn't hurt you. So, remember this ultimate protection technique. It lasts a very, very long time. And a lot of people have difficulty conceptualizing it mentally because it's really 2 different shapes in one. And really 3 because you're putting whatever you're protecting in the center of the whole thing. So you first want to put yourself or whoever you're protecting first, then build the tetrahedron around that. Then once you have that in your head, then put the octahedron around that. All in violet. And nothing will ever happen to you. What color should you never use when you're flying? Well, you shouldn't use that anywhere. But what color would be very dangerous to use when you're flying? Wow. You're sitting on it. Brown. Yeah. Don't ever use brown when you're flying. Keep the plane and the protection in violet and or gold. Highest level. Now white is the highest energy possible. It's a very powerful, powerful energy. But it's so powerful it destroys physical reality. That's the problem. It belongs in non-physical. The highest color that operates successfully in physical is the gold. Once after that, you're starting to eliminate the... in fact, what happens in an atomic blast? White flash. Nothing left. Any questions on any of the colors or the healing techniques or combinations or anything like that? They're as needed. Usually they'll last several hours. You'll start to feel like you need to do it again. You'll have an inner knowing that I need to regenerate this. But this one, as I say, is so powerful, lasts 3 to 4 days before it dissipates. And also, don't forget the violet hands also as a covering. So may I erase this here? Now in your folders that I handed out to you, I don't know what side of the folder is on. Oh yeah, it should be on your left. You're going to see 3 sheets. Now, hopefully they're correct. That have archetypes on them, symbols. And another one that says, learning a new language. Now make sure that your sheets are double-sided. Turn them over. Are there things on the other side? Okay. You have the double-sided ones? Yeah? Yeah. So literally you actually have 4 pages of a brief dictionary and then a 5th page which is like sentences. Yes, you all have that? Okay. Now, what you have there is actually a rudimentary dictionary of hyperspace symbols. Those of you that have the Hero's Handbook, there is a more comprehensive dictionary in there that goes into a lot more elaborate techniques. But for our purposes here right now, we're going to learn very basic Hyperspace 101. So what you should do is look briefly over these meanings of the archetypes on those first couple of pages, and then try to translate the sentences on this page that have the language of hyperspace on it. It says, learn a new language. And what I suggest is that as you go through your dictionary, underneath each character, you write the meaning of the archetype, and then you write a cohesive sentence pulling all the meanings together. Now, don't change the order of the archetype. Don't switch them around in order to accommodate a sentence, but rather make the sentence what the archetypes are saying in the order in which you see them. Also, I have, as those sentences, you're going to see 4 symbols on those sentences. When you see an archetype sentence with 4 symbols in it, that is always a DNA sentence. Who knows why it would be a DNA sentence with 4 symbols in it? If you know, we're going to learn tomorrow, but I'll just give you a little hint today, that there are 4 protein bases to DNA, and as each one ignites, as you activate your DNA, it gives off its symbol, creating a DNA sentence. So it's literally helping you know it's in your DNA structure. What happens in a sentence where there's only 3 symbols? What does that mean? Try to remember this morning the levels of awareness. The number 3. If you're getting a sentence of 3, that is a sentence directly from your mind pattern, from the levels of awareness. And very often, sometimes, you'll only get 1. Usually 1 is a complex archetype, and it's usually like a paragraph. Where have you seen those in the world? Where have you seen a complex archetype in the world that needed to be translated? They're on the news every summer, usually. No idea, huh? They're crop circles. Which they're really not circles, they're complex archetypes that need to be deciphered. If you get a symbol that's something else, let's say you get 2 or 5, then there's something incomplete. You missed 1. If you're receiving a sentence that's on 2 or 5, etc., generally they're 1, 3, or 4. So take your time and go over each of the sentences. Remember, write the name or the meaning underneath, and then make a cohesive sentence that pulls it all together without changing the order of the symbols in the sentence. Now I'm going to tell you that on some of them, well, especially the ones towards the bottom, I threw in a little extra symbols in them that you'll need to think about. Now, when you get a complex archetype, in order to translate it, you need to break out the pieces into the components and understand what the components mean. But you have in those other sheets all the pieces you need, all the components are there. It's just a question of how you put them together. Okay. Have we done at least the first couple on top? So, who wants to volunteer for this number 1 on the very top? Anybody? Don't be afraid. Yes? Sure.
Messages from the DNA expand in intelligent entities.
Fine. Absolutely fine. How did we know, or you know, that this was expand? What would tell you the difference? Let's say you got this sentence mentally in your work. How would you know by color if this was expand or cancel? Remember something. The archetypes can appear in any color, and the color refines the meaning. I did them here in black and white because they're generic. I wanted you to just get the idea of translating. But just for your own benefit so that you know, here's so that you know. Let's look at the chakra tube. Basically, if it's below this point, it's cancel or remove. And if it's above this point, it's multiply or expand. So if you saw it in royal blue or violet, it means expand or multiply. If it was in brown or red, most 99% of everybody uses expand, because that shows you're a positive thinker. But so that you understand, it can mean something else depending on the color. Here's another question for all of you. You translated it from left to right, because that's what your culture told you to do. How do you know? Maybe you got it from right to left, or up to down. I want you to also keep in mind then, that archetype sentences can come in any direction, because there is no spatial procedure from HyperSpace. It could be any way. So always translate them in the order in which you received it. Always keep that in mind.
Show up like up and down.
Diagonal, backwards, upside down. There's no difference to HyperSpace, because there is no spatial perspective. Now, what if it was from right to left? How would you translate it that way?
Intelligent entity expands the DNA.
Okay. Or an intelligent entity expands DNA by way of the method. Remember, you can put filler words, because this language of hyperspace, was never meant to be spoken or even written. It's mental. It's designed for instant understanding and transmission. It's downloaded in your mind pattern. So we're just struggling to physicalize it and make sense out of it, just to a point of understanding. But as you progress on in the work that you do, it'll become an instant comprehension. How about the second sentence? Anybody? Oh, fine. What if it was the other way around? Conscious perfection through the crown chakra brings balance. Okay. How about that number 3? I put a little bit of a twist in there, but you still have the components that you could decipher it. So how would that be? Very good. You did it right to left, okay. And if it was the other way? You could say in the other way, space and time brings conscious awareness for human beings. Or you could say human beings, awareness of their reality is through time and space, which is true. What if the human being archetype was in red? What would that say about that person? Or if I just had this archetype in red? Well, if you saw that symbol, what would that say to you? Well, I would say, if I saw that, I'd say that's an angry person. If you see a person all in red, are you going to say, oh, hi, how you doing?
No.
Or you can go, okay, that way. If you see someone in pale pink, what's pale pink? Unconditional love. Generally, if you see someone in pale pink, if you don't know them, you feel comfortable in their presence. Okay? If you see someone dressed in ice or steel blue, they're going to be a little harsh with you, a little cool, a little standoffish. People dress in the colors that are telling you their emotions for the day, not an accident. Yes, you might say it's the only thing I didn't have that wasn't in the laundry, or so-and-so is visiting me today, was a present, I have to wear it. Maybe those are your physical justifications, but bottom line is your mind pattern arranged that to happen because that suited your personality for that day. And yes, and gray, so we won't even discuss that. But if you decide to come tomorrow and say, I'll wear violet, make them think I'm spiritual and protected, but you're really in a bad mood, you won't be able to wear it. You'll say, I just don't like this, and you'll take it off. Because it has to match this. And you can't fool yourself. You can't fool other people either, really. What about this number 1 on the bottom part?
Physical reality measures space and time.
Exactly. And the opposite?
Space and time measures the physical reality.
Exactly. What about the number 2?
It balances and expands the intelligent entities forever.
Or you could say balancing expands an intelligent entity eternally.
Oh, yeah.
You could say it that way. Or an eternal being, how about the other way? An eternal being expands and balances. See? What about number 3? Now everyone comes up with something else on this number 3. Any ideas? Don't be afraid.
Frequency and time expand. Pineal awareness for the human being.
Come close. What is a frequency in time? What does that mean? What is another term that you can use for that? You're going to be so surprised when you hear it. I guess you want me to tell you, don't you? That symbol here, on the bottom, is the archetype symbol for time travel. So we can read this by saying, time travel expands the awareness or consciousness of human beings. Or human beings' awareness is expanded through time travel. Now what if I had this symbol in green? What would that mean? Past. So this would be time travel to the past, or simply past time. For example, if you're telling a story in archetype, and you're telling someone that this happened a long time ago, you would just use the symbol in a darker green. The darker the green, the further into the past. The darker the blue, the further into the future. Now someone mentioned the difference between violet and purple. I told you what violet is. And purple has several other meanings. Purple represents deep space travel. Also represents royalty. And physically, if you put purple through your veins and arteries, it removes plaque and cholesterol. So it has a lot of healing purposes to purple. Any questions on how to translate archetype sentences? What do you think your dreams are? When you dream, what do you think happens? Yes, you dream in symbols. What kind of symbols? Of course, it does depend on your depth of dreaming, the state of dreaming, if it's a real deep sleep or a light sleep. When you dream, depending on how deep you go into other realities, many people simply go into the astral level. Remember that the astral level is a borderline area between the physical and hyperspace. It's the boundary. It's the boundary. And so, there's a lot of physicality involved with it. So you can think of something and it materializes energetically, but looks physical, but it isn't. Beyond that is the hyperspace level, which is where you go in deep sleep. And in hyperspace, there is instant communication and transmission of pure energy. Just instant. And it's in archetype and color and tone.
I have a question with that. When I sleep, I go into such a deep sleep anymore that I've had a dog, 80-pound dog run across my body and never woke me. And I mean, I've had instances where I should have been awoken, and I never come back till I'm ready. That
very deep sleep, yeah.
that's going in the
Oh, yeah.
Because when that happens, because I've always been psychic as a kid, and I used to dream, my life as it was going on, but lately, since I've gotten into this, I'll go into these sleeps, and I generally won't come back with any dreams that I can remember.
You always dream, but not always remember them.
But I don't always remember. I mean, the second I wake up, I'd be tired too.
When you don't remember your dream, it's because the message in there isn't for your conscious mind. It's for the subconscious mind pattern. But what happens when you go into hyperspace dreaming? And you're dreaming or experiencing literally in symbol, color, and tone. Then when you come back to your body, because you do leave your body when you go to sleep, when you come back, your left brain says, does not compute. I have no reference point for this symbol stuff. What is it? Because the right brain's coming in with all this symbol, and the left brain says, what the heck is that? So what happens? The pineal gland kicks in and says, I will be the liaison, the translator. So the pineal gland puts pictograms over the archetype and strings them together like a story that you can consciously remember. So if you dream you were on a lake and you saw a tree, well, maybe you would also dreaming about a T-bar and a circle, but your left brain said, I don't understand that, so your pineal gland made this into a lake and put birds and flowers and things on the tree, or it might have made this into a pyramid, which could have been this might have been a house in your dream. You understand? DNA symbol very often appears as a railroad track or a ladder. Okay? These are all the symbols that's why you need to write down all of the dreams that you possibly can remember and then translate them so that you can see the message you're getting either from your genetic code or from your own mind pattern. Now, normally, a person sleeps 7 or 8 hours a night. That's a normal range. If you extrapolate that into a lifetime, and in the United States an average lifetime is 75 years, so a third of your day that you're sleeping, extrapolated to a lifetime means you were sleeping 25 years. A quarter of a century, you are asleep. That's a very long time to not know what's going on in your life. A third of your life, you don't know what's going on. And you're conditioned when you're a little child and you have a dream or a nightmare and you tell someone, oh, it's just a dream. Don't worry about it. Don't pay attention to your dream. They're just dreams. But they're extremely important because the life you live in your dream state is just as valid as your waking state. It's just that the rules and regulations are different. But they're just as valid. You are an entity, a conscious entity in all those realities. It's very important that you write them down. Very often in the dream state, you get communication from those who have passed on because it's easy to access you. And you may also get, very commonly, information and communication from an alternate self of you. Which, after we're going to take lunch in a few minutes, but after that, remind me to talk to you about your alternate existences that bleed through during your dream state, because you're able to then see the whole carpet instead of just a little piece. So that's what dreaming is all about. So we're going to take a break now. We're going to go to lunch and try to keep it to an hour or so. And then we'll come back and resume the rest of what we're doing for today. Any questions before we go lunch? On anything we've covered so far? No? So when you get a test, you're going to pass the test?
Oh, no, great, you're going to give us a test.
Well, I'll vote to see if you're paying attention. All right, so have a good lunch, and when you come back, we'll go over the rest. Just so that you know, if when I'm not here, or if you want to look around behind the black curtain, behind curtain number 1, are all the books and tapes that unfortunately had to get covered up for the backdrop. But please feel free to look at them. They're available for you. Okay?